shout out to Scarface, who just had open heart surgery. Damn, Scarface was going through. He's a trooper. He said that it could have went either way. So he had a 50. It's funny. He's been close to death a bunch of times. He was just during the pandemic. He had to get I forgot, it was either a kidney or a liver. I think it might have been a kidney. Luckily, his son had, of course they got the same. I'm pretty sure they got the same. Well, you got the same blood type, right? When you have a kid, your kid has just your same blood type, or it could be the mom's or the father's. I'm thinking, right? Anyway, his son helped him through the last health scare he had, where I think he needed a kidney, and his son gave him a kidney, and he was saying that if his son didn't give him that kidney, he would have passed away then. So now he had open heart surgery, and I guess he said it could have ended. What is up with Scarface, man? That's why, man, black men, man, but you gotta think though, Scarface, I mean, I'm just assuming, I'm pretty sure he talked about it on his audio book, but Scarface, I'm pretty sure when he was in his heyday, I'm pretty sure he probably don't do it no more, but I'm pretty sure he was drinking and smoking a lot of weed, you know what I'm saying? That street life, the gangster rapper life, might have had something to do with it, I don't know. But that's good that he recovered. Scarface is one of my favorite rappers of all time. Like, I was hoping that he came out with a new album, but, I'm thinking he got some new stuff out. But it would be good I would say it would be good for the GTO Boys to get back together, but you really can't can't bring the GTO Boys back without Bushwick. But rest in peace to Bushwick. But it would be cool if him and Willie D could have, I guess I don't think they have beef, but that whole blow up that they had 2 years ago, because it was the GTO Boys podcast, which I think could have been huge, because everybody loves the GTO Boys, even the youngsters. Even if they don't really know too much about the GTO Boys, they know Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Of course, I think that's one of their biggest crossover hits. But everybody knows the GTO Boys. Everybody knows Willie D and Scarface, but the GTO Boys, they had the podcast, and they had that falling out because Scarface it was last year, because last year was the 50 years of hip hop. They had the GTO Boys podcast last year, and what happened was they was doing a tribute to hip hop, and they was bringing out all the hip hop legends to do just, I guess, maybe a couple seconds of their hit, their biggest hit from all over the United States, different rappers, the classics. And they invited the GTO Boys, and Scarface didn't tell Willie D. He went by himself and didn't tell Willie D. And then Willie D look up and see Scarface performing Mind Playing Tricks on Me. And he said, "Oh yeah, I forgot." And he told Willie D, asked him, like, "Hey man, you ain't tell me you was doing why you let me know?" He said, "Oh yeah, I forgot." And they had gotten to like a big, I think that interview might be on YouTube if they haven't taken it down. But they had like a little blow up. They had a little blow up, and Scarface hasn't, I'm thinking that was the end of the GTO Boys podcast. But good that Scarface made it through that surgery. Like I say, he's one of my favorite rappers. Big Scarface fan. Good that he was able to get through that unscathed, you know what I'm saying? But brothers, man, we gotta take care of our health, man. We getting older, especially me. Start with your eating. People say work out, eat right. This is how I learned, and this is the easy way I learned how to, because I ended up dropping 56 pounds. This is how I learned how to be able to drop anybody blowing behind me? This is how I ended up dropping the weight. The 56 pounds I dropped. You don't want to work out and eat right. That's going to be too difficult for you, because this is something new. It takes a lot of discipline. You got to be consistent with it for it to work. Start with eating right first. Once you start eating right, and get in the habit of eating right, which shouldn't take no more, maybe like a week, 2 weeks, if you're really on it. Once you start eating right, by the second week, you're gonna see a little bit of a change, because if you really get on the discipline with your food, no sugar, no processed sugar. Only sugar you should be eating is fruit, but no processed sugar like cupcakes, Snickers, shit like that. Now later's candy, shit like that. That's processed sugar. Bread, fast food got a lot of processed sugar in it. Vegetables, meat, nothing fried, and fruit and rice. Stick to that for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. and then move over on to doing, okay, you'll start feeling like, ooh, I feel, when you focus on your discipline on the eating, you'll be like, oh man, this feels pretty, I feel like you'll feel like working out because you'll have more energy because you've changed your diet. And then you'll want to go ahead and start hitting the gym, Planet Fitness and shit like that. I'm telling you that it works. Focus on your eating discipline for about 2 weeks. By the second week, you're gonna want to go for a walk, go to the park. You're gonna feel a little bit more energized, and that's gonna prompt you to want to go to the gym. I'm telling you, it works. But thank goodness that Scarface is still with us. Hopefully, Willie D and Scarface and squash they little spat and maybe bring back the GTO Boys Podcast. Right now, Willie D has his own podcast, but it'd be nice to have Willie D and Scarface to come back and do their own podcast. You know, a lot of these old school rappers that I grew up with are starting to move into the podcast sector. You know, Mace and Cameron, which is actually is a big success. They say it's one of the fastest growing podcasts in a while. I forgot the name of the podcast too. I forgot the Cameron. It's not called the Cameron and Mace podcast, but it's called something else. What's Good or some shit like that. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, I just looked it up. The Is What It Is podcast, really good. Who else got a successful podcast? Kid and Play got their own podcast. Who else? I'm think T.I. had a podcast for a little bit, but that, you know, he said that he had to squash that because it wasn't really panning out how he wanted it to pan out. Who else? B-High from what's the name of that group? Young Bloods, he got his own podcast. There's a bunch of them, man. A bunch of old school cats got their own podcast. So it'd just be good to have the GTO Boys get there. That's what I think would be a good realm. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think that'd be a good idea to bridge the gap between the young artists. Because it's always been kind of this split recently. I say like in the past 10 years of the old. I think it started with T.I. I'm sorry, not T.I. with Ice-T and what's his name? Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy was the usher. Well, he was like the ushering in of the new wave, the new school, new wave rapper, Soulja Boy, and he blew up from that song. You know, the Soulja Dance song. And Ice-T kind of criticized him on the song, and then him Ice-T and Soulja Boy kind of went back and forth. Then they ended up squashing their beef. But that was like the intro to what we have now, where a lot of the old school rappers don't respect the new school rappers because they think that they, you know, don't have any talent. They think that they are too soft and too weird. And the young rappers don't respect the old school rappers. They think that they lame and outdated and old and played out. So it'd be good for I think it's good that a lot of these old school rappers are having these podcasts to kind of, two things, research their career, you know, because nobody is really buying their music, you know, like, although they have, you know, I buy a lot of old school rappers' music still. Matter of fact, I want to buy that new Ice Cube album that's getting ready to drop. But a lot of people don't. They buy the Sexy Reds, the Drakes, the Lil Durks, the Kendricks. They buy all the new school guys that are current now. So it's good that a lot of these old school rappers, MC8, he got his own podcast with another old school West Coast rapper. I forgot homeboy's name. I think it's CJ Wright, I think his name. So yeah, it'd be good for a lot of these old school rappers to transition into interviewing and just sitting down talking with the new school rappers, with the Little Durks and the Pooh Shiesties, who is I think he's in jail now. But it'd be nice, which if Pooh Shiesty would have sat down with an old school rapper, he might have been in a position where he wouldn't have ended up in jail right now. You know, I think Pooh Shiesty was Gucci Mane's artist. But it'd be good if these old school rappers, like, yeah, I believe MC Lyte supposed to be getting her own podcast. MC Lyte, who else? LL, but LL got so much going on. He's still kind of popping with his acting and stuff he's doing. I don't think he has, but he dropped a new album as well. But it just be good for Fat Joe. Had his own podcast. Matter of fact, he has his own podcast, and it'd be good to see these old school rappers that we grew up with, who these young school rappers feel like don't respect them. Just sit down, hey man, come to my podcast, man, you know, and let's chop it up, you know. And then Snoop Snoop had his own podcast for a little bit, and that's what I think bridged the gap with Snoop, because a lot of new school artists fuck with Snoop, and that's because on that podcast he would have Nipsey on, he would have who else? He had a bunch of people on his podcast, Currency and all the new school cats. You know, he would have on his show, which would bridge the gap. You know, so I think if more old school rappers did that a lot of these young rappers would respect them more. You know, especially with, you know, the whole podcast platform being the new thing now. But anyway, what do y'all think, man? Good shout out to Scarface. Glad that he made it through that he made it through that whole thing unscathed. And yeah, man. Make sure y'all go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll check y'all later.